Hello and welcome. Today we're going to speak about project management with Microsoft tools. My name is Henrik Yllemo. So what is project management? More specifically, what is a project? It's a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service or result. According to PMI, a project is temporary in that it has defined beginning and end in time, and therefore defined scope and resources. And the project is unique in that it has no routine operation. Interesting. This is very specific on what a project is, but what about project management then? Project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. That's also very specific. And PMI also defines the project management process into 5 specific groups. The first one being initiating, then we have planning, then executing, and monitoring and controlling, and then we have closing. And also on top of that, PMI has the project management knowledge areas, which is 10 at the moment, is the integration, is the scope, time and cost. We have the quality, procurement, human resources, communications, risk management, and stakeholder management. So today, our ambition today is to follow PMI's definition of project management, both in a traditional waterfall approach and an agile approach, using Microsoft tools, only Microsoft tools, to deliver a world-class project using Microsoft tools. So just before we get started, I want to bring your attention to this screen here when we have the 5 process areas of PMI. So typically what's happening here is that we start something, we start a phase or start a project, or start something, and we do enter the initiating process. The main question here is that why are we doing this? What's the rationale behind it? What's the business case and what's the directive? And we want to have something that actually validates the project and make it the reason to why we want to do this. Then we step into the planning process. We focus on the what and the how. And this is typically an iterative step. We do the executing process in the do it state, and we go sometimes back to the planning and we do it and we loop around here. And on top of that, we have this monitoring and controlling processes that's really covering the entire scope of the project in order to monitor and control that we're making the good enough quality, for example, and we want to manage and control all of the things we do. Then when we're close to finish, or when we're finishing it up, we can say that we did it, and we have the closing processes, and then we have an end of a project. So this is really an overview of the 5 processes of PMI. It's agile in comparison to a traditional project, a waterfall project. PMI's definition is not really bound to a waterfall process. It can be both agile and waterfall. It can support both because it's more generic. So looking at this very nice agile in a nutshell, created by Crisp here in Sweden, blog.crisp.se, you can find this nice little overview of what agile is and how it compares to waterfall. I wanted to show you guys this before we go into the actual tools, just to have an understanding that each project is unique. It's an endeavor to actually understand, and it's really much tools that you need to understand in order to do this. So basically, why do you want to do agile and when do you want to do agile? The quick answer is, if it's very complex and very unsure what you want to achieve, then probably agile is the better one. But if it's all clear to you and you have done it many times before, similar type of project, and you have some good estimates, then it's probably more effective to do a waterfall approach to that. That's the quick answer. So looking at this, we call it here waterfall or fate-driven development. The problem with this is that the project risk is increasing when you have a big bang delivery. So the cost is increased and the risk is increased over time. So this is kind of like the big risk. So what you do instead in an agile or an incremental type of development is that you have the more of a step. You do this more iterative in sprints, just so you have the minor risk in each sprint. So that means that you can adjust and adapt towards the goal at any given time here. Here you have more like plan the plan, work the plan, the type of risk. So we also have these ways of working, the waterfall approach towards the agile approach. Here we see a typical waterfall approach when we have these different experts, SMEs, in different areas, and it's kind of like moving towards the next one. When this one is finished, the next guy takes on, and the third one, and so on. And that means that also 50% of the knowledge gets lost in the handover. So 50% of the knowledge lost, 50-50, it's kind of like horrible in a knowledge transfer state. So what you want to do in an agile project is you want to have this T-shaped people, and you want to have a high degree of overlaps and a cross-functional team that can support each other and have a good understanding of each other's areas of expertise. So you want to have them pretty broad in a knowledge space, and you want to have them specific as well. So they want to have the dedicated expertise. So what we're going to focus on a little bit today is this incremental delivery. So we're going to do a typical water-scrum-fall. So we're not going to do this typical scrum all the way. So we're going to have a product backlog, we're going to have a sprint backlog, and we're going to work in sprints. I'm going to demo how to do this in sprints, but we're not going to follow all the way. And when it comes to organizational agility and this agile manifesto, so I will have a traditional project in the beginning, then I will switch to Microsoft tools using agile, scrum, more specific, and then we're going to go back to the traditional way of thinking. So we're going to do the water-scrum-fall approach. The most common project management tools within the Microsoft stack is probably Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. That's kind of like the most basic one that you should have a good understanding of how to work with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. I think that most people have a good understanding of that today because they've been around for quite some time. But there are some other less known tools within the Microsoft stack here that's really powerful when it comes to working with the modern projects. Some of them being in this Office 365 portfolio, for example. We have SharePoint as one of the things that we're going to focus on today. And we're also going to have a little look at Planner. And we're also going to have a look at Teams. And we're also going to have a look at Microsoft Team Foundation Server. So we're going to start up by having a look at SharePoint and the SharePoint functionality, and then we're going to have a look at how we can use Microsoft Team Foundation Server or Visual Studio Team Services in order to do an agile delivery of the execution phase of a project. Now we're looking at SharePoint's online, and I started a little team site here with a sad trombone. It's my little application. When I want to create a little application that you should push a button and it should play a sad trombone song, and from there it's gonna basically just log the playing. So that's not really a fancy advanced application, but I wanted to create a project site just in order to get an understanding of how to use this SharePoint stack. So the first thing we see here is a typical layout, and we can for example, it says remove this. We can remove the thing here, and we have a little simpler page here. So we can do, what first thing we can do here is we can go to the page, we can press on the edit of the page, and we can see that we have various parts, various applications here. We can, example, delete this one as well, and we can delete this one as well if we don't want it. So we keep it simple. So we see that we have 3 different areas here within here. From here I can insert other type of applications or parts of an application. So for example, I can put in an application part, I can put in something back again. So I just put in a document library again. So I have this on top here instead. So basically when I press save here, I see that I have the document library on top here. That's the only thing I have. I can also go back into edit and I can use this as a wiki page. I can type in some things, for example, if I want to have some descriptions, and I can add images and stuff. So this is kind of like an content editor type of thing that we can use. We can also put in various type of applications. So everything basically in SharePoint is around applications. So there's two different things that you can add here. Pressing the cog here, you can add a page. That means that we get another type of page here within this site, and we can also add an application. So just to get an understanding, I will press add application here, so just to have an understanding that everything within SharePoint is revolved around applications. So everything is basically apps that you see on the pages. So if I go here on site contents, you can also press here on site contents. I can see which type of apps I have installed within SharePoint. I see that I have documents, I have a form template, I have a microfeed, site assets, site pages, and so on. So for example, I can have a look at this document library. I can click on this little link here on the left hand side. So we go back into this document library. One of the core things with SharePoint is the documents and the list libraries. Those are two primary things when it comes to working with SharePoint. So if you using SharePoint within your project, I think you should focus on trying to understand the document libraries and the list libraries. So if, for example, go back to the site contents here, we can see that we can add a little app here. And I can add various types of apps from here. And for example, I want to use a custom list. So I just want to have a, let's call it a risk register, for example. And we just press create. Now I created a little list here. It's a different type of a structure than the document structure. So going back to the documents here, I can see that I have the same type of heading here, but it's different in terms of when I press the new button. If I go press the new button here, I only have a couple of lines. I only have one line actually, so I can put in a risk 1, for example. Risk 1, this is my risk that I have right now. This is like you can see this as a typical like Excel or something like that. You can press the edit here, and I can for example add risk 2, for example, in this as well. And I can add additional columns here. I can add a text, for example. I can have saying that this is something I want to understand the priority, for example. Or I want to have something else within this little list. So I can have this as a way of working with Excel. For example, if I go on the documents folder here and I compare it and I press the new here, I can see that I can, for example, add a Word document, Excel document, or a PowerPoint document. So if I press on this Word document, we're gonna do this sad trombone. So let's call this the business case, and we're gonna create a sad trombone application. So this is the thing I want to do, and I'm going to sign it here. So this is my directive charter. Let's call it like that. And we're just finishing there. Says saving. So it's auto saving because I'm using Word Online. So if in case I use this edit in Word, I would use the desktop in order to create the same thing. So now I can go back to my little site here, and I can just refresh. It should be in here, the applicated documents. So now I have the charter here. I can go in here and I can say, okay, this is document is not a really good name, so I can rename it. Maybe I will call it let's say charter, for example, and this is the business case, depending on how your project model is requiring it in the naming convention. So this is typically the starting point. This I use in order to create documents and various documents types. The list here I have the risk register list here can also be used to create additional information and tie it together. So I can use this as a way of linking things towards documents, and so I can have in the list I can tie it to a document, or I can tie the document to a list. So it's kind of like the entire SharePoint platform is so much integration, so I can have lots of things going on within SharePoint at the same time. So it's a really powerful but also pretty complex structure. One of the things also with the SharePoint is the connection with the notebooks and using OneNote. So for example, click here, I can type in some notes, and this is just like free notes, wiki notes, or whatever, some simple notes. So for example, I just type in simple note here, need to do this, blah, 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 something like that. I can use this, and I can also tie in various type of boxes here. And this is something that I can also open in OneNote. So I can open it in OneNote on the desktop. Here you see that it's kind of refreshing here. So I can use the desktop version of this. The desktop version is really also very neat because I can use various types of commands. For example, I can type in a date. This is really handy when I do new pages like this. I can just type in a date. I can also press this command, so I have it on the right hand side. So I have this, so now I only use this screen here on the left hand side. So I can use, for example, if I go back, I can use this as a note while I'm having a meeting, for example. So I can have this on the side here. So for example, I just need to remember this, and I need to remember that, and then I continue with the meeting, and I have this on the side here as well all the time. So OneNote is one of those applications that I really recommend that you try and understand really good, because this is where you keep all of your meeting information and all your meeting notes and meeting minutes and stuff like that. So that's also tied into the SharePoint platform, so you can have them accessible using a quick link here as well. So another thing that we can do with SharePoint is, for example, a very common thing is that we want to add stakeholder register. So just we do a stakeholder registry like this. I create a new custom list. Just create a custom list like this. And typically what you do in SharePoint is that you don't really do this all the time. You actually store this information centrally as templates, and you can have like pre-configured templates that you just add to your site, so you don't have to do, every project manager don't need to do this. So in the farm of the SharePoint you do this centrally, so you can just reuse this. There's something called the ribbon on top here, where I can press on this, and I'm going into list settings here. I can do some more type of things here if I want to add this. For example, I want to go in here to the list settings. I can go in here and I can add additional columns to this list. So for example, if I want to do this, I can do this create column, and I want to have a name, for example, of my stakeholder, and I just press OK. So now I have an additional column within here, which I have a title and a name. That's the only thing I want to keep track on. And maybe I want to have something like a number, and so we call it maybe power. So I want to have a number indicating how powerful this individual is, for example. This is of course super simple. So this is a crash introduction of how to use this. So let's say, for example, I have various stakeholders that I need to contact you. So I have the CEO, for example, and his name is Bengt, whatever, and he has power of 10, for example. Bang, what's his name? Funny name. And I have the tech lead, for example. Lead, we don't mind the spelling, and we call her Anna, for example, and she has the power of 6 or whatever. So basically what I can do is I can use this list in various ways. I can update this list, and I can edit it in this form, and I also can create views here. For example, I can have all items views, but I can also click here and I can create additional views on this specific list. So I go with a standard view here, and I can do the view here in various ways. I can only show CEO, for example, and I can do the various type of sorting and show which type of fields I want to show. So just for the fun of it, I'm going to show you lots of fields just so you can see a difference, because in the background SharePoint has lots of various additional fields. So I want to filter here, and I want to filter by title, and the title should be equal to CEO. That's the only thing I want to filter on, and I want to press OK here. So now I see I have the all items and I have the CEO filter here. So that means that I can have various views, and I can create custom views for myself or for the team, so they can have various views, various aggregated pre-configured views as well here within, so they can actually aggregate more easily information about what's important and what's not. Another thing I can do with this list is actually open up Microsoft Visio here, and I can tie this this data on the stakeholder folder to from Visio to various icons here, or drawings. So I just connect it to a SharePoint Foundation list, and I type in the name of the list here, and I just press next, and I choose the stakeholder and link to a list. So just press next and finish. What I have now is down here I can have drag out the various types of things. See, we have those two people here, so I can, for example, highlight this position, and I draw out this icon here, and I take the other one and I make this maybe an assistant or whatever. So I can use this very nicely together with the Visio as well, so I can have connections in between. I can have the connection to this, for example, and have the relation, and from here I can do the organization chart, and I can switch the layout of this. Oops, sorry, I need to change that, so I can switch like this, so I can have various type of layouts within the structure. So I can use the power of Visio, and I can have the, like you see here, I have the names arrived here. So if I change within, if I go back to here and I change the tech lead name, I can press the edit here of this, and we call her something else, Anna, something like that. That's very funny. I can right click on this, and I can refresh the data. So I just refresh all, completed, close, and we see that it's been updated within the Visio drawing. This is one of those things that's really powerful when it comes to using SharePoint and visualizations of various types of data. Another thing I can do is that I can go to the documents here, and I can have a little look at this document library, and I can go into the library settings here, and I can add specific columns to this. We see that we have some additional default columns, and I can create another one and saying maybe this is something specific of a tag or a type or something like that. So I just call it tag, just so we know that it's something that I created. Tag here. So going back to this document folder, this document library, all the documents here now have this this column of tag tied to it. So if, for example, if I change or modify this view, I can, in this document view here, I can add the tag here. So I see that we have it default in here, so I can show it, and I can sort it, and I can arrange it. So now we have the tag here. So I don't have any tags on this. So if I go on this, and for example, if I go to properties here, I can tag this with something like BC, business case maybe. This is a good tag, just so we can search for it and find it easily within this. And I can also, within this document, I can also change this document, of course. I can do the changes and amendments to this. So I can go in and maybe if I modify something within this document. So if I just press edit in Word, in this case, we go into Word and we change something, and so we say hello, just like that, and we just press save and we close it. So what I can do now is that I can go back to this, and I can just, so we refresh, we see that it's a little bit green here. It indicates that it's been changed, and we can see that it's been modified a few seconds ago. We can click on this little dots here, and we can see the version history. One of those cool things is that we can actually see from the previous versions to the current version. If I open up one of those earlier versions here, I can see here, I can do a compare. It says jämför here in Swedish because I have a Swedish localization, but jämför it's compare. I can see a comparison where I can see the original document and the changes within the document. So it's highlighted in between here. Also, another thing I can do is I can go to the view the document panel, so I can see the settings and the properties of the server side. So I can have the default document parameters, and I can have the server side here as well. So I can change this and maybe add another one and saying this is CC or something like that as well. So I can update it from within here. So that's really one of those cool things with SharePoint, that you can have a server-side version of your documents really tied together nicely within the Office applications. So, congratulations! Now I'm ready to actually start the work, the planning and the execution phase of this little project. I do the initial rough sketches. So we have started the project, I have a signed charter, and I have a stakeholder list, and I have some risk register as well. So now I'm going to start with this Agile phase of the project. So we're going to do an iterative sprint. We're going to do a Scrum-based execution of the project. So we're going to create a new Scrum team here. So right now I'm in Visual Studio Team Services. So it says here, congratulations, sad trombone has now been created in the cloud, blah blah. And I can choose if I want to start with managing the work, or if I just want to start with adding the code. So what I want to do, I want to manage the work. So I go back here to manage work. It's going to flip me over to the work tab here. So now I have a really nice board of a backlog. So what I want to do in the backlog here, I want to create some PBIs, product backlog items, and I want to create a GUI, a graphical user interface, and I want to create a log, and I want to create maybe some an installation, maybe. Something like that. This is the things that I actually want to create. So I can switch here from the board to the backlog tab. So I can go to the backlog tab, and here I can see in more in a list form. This is the things I want to create within here. But I also want to have an additional on top of the PBIs. I want to have the features, and I want to have a feature called maybe sad trombone. So like that. Within this feature, I want to tie the other ones I just created. So I go here to the mapping and turn the mapping on, and I just tie this to the sad trombone. So you're going to see it's going to be tied to this sad trombone. So I go back to the features tab here, and I click on the expand. I can see now we have the installation log and GUI tied to the feature of the sad trombone. What I also can have here is I can have an additional level on top of here, which I have say epics. For example, I have epics here, and this is maybe I want to create something like a multimedia suite or something like that, and I want to tie the features of the sad trombone to this multimedia site. So if I'm a very high level stakeholder, I can only watch on this. Maybe, for example, I'm only interested in this level, this epic level, and maybe feature level, but not an actual implementation. So each of the levels here, the epic, features, and backlog items, have their own backlog and their own board. So I can go to the board here, and we can see that the configuration of the board is different on the various layers here. We can see that it's not really exactly the same, and it's also very configurable within the TFS, that you can actually change and configure the board, and you can have it as a Kanban board if you want to, with work item limitations within like WIP limits within various columns like that. But typically you have that within the sprint. But we're not doing Kanban, we're doing Scrum. So we have a sprint here, and within the sprint it says it's lonely in here. So I want to tie something within this sprint. And before I do that, I want to create some tasks below the various things here. So for example, I want to create a GUI. I want to create within the GUI here, I want to create add a tasks within here. So let's say add a task, create let's call it storyboard or something like that. We want to create like a graphical representation of what we want to do. So we have an additional task here, and I can create a additional tasks for the other ones as well. So maybe for the log, I want to create a log file function. And of course, in a real project, you would have better naming of this installation. I want to create a package, just something like that. So this is the things I want to create. So if I go back to this, and I now see that I have yellow ones here below here. That's really nice. And I can click on this. And what I can do is on this level as well, I can add both tasks that I want to do below here. Like each of the items have various tasks here, but I can also add a test scenario. So if I click on the test here, for example, I want to test the GUI, for example. So I can click on add test. Did I click on the add test? We do test. So we have a blue button here, and this is the test GUI test plan that I want to create. So now I have you see this bottle here. It's one test case test plan and one task. So if I go to the back to the backlog and say that this is the things that we're going to do in this upcoming sprint. Of course, typically you have lots of more items here within the backlog, and it's prioritized, so the top level is the most up-to-date one. So I just drag them into here. So I just move them into the sprint. So now I have the three things within the sprint, and I can go to the board and I can see the various packages here. So this is what we do in the daily scrums. We take our assignment as, for example, this is me, this is not me, this is me. So, and I can say that this is in progress, this is something I'm working on, and I have this, I've done this, and I'm gonna do this, and I don't have any problems. So the typical Scrum, and I can also see the typical, I have to have some dates, but I can see the typical burn down chart. So for example, if I type in I'm going to do today and I'm going to finish by tomorrow. So this is my thing here, and I can have a burn down for this specific sprint, so to say. One of those cool things with the TFS is that it has a really nicely configured release cycle here. So you have the coding and the work and the build and release and the test already pre-configured, working together with the work item. So every work item like this has a really tightly connected to the other tasks that we want to do. So the linkage in between is really strong, so you can have a good understanding. And let's say you're sitting in Visual Studio, you can see your work items, and you can query work items and have various views of your work items, and you can automate some of the things here as well. So within the TFS, it's really tightly coupled together with the actual code being built. So this is typically for a software development project, but that's what I'm focusing on. So I guess that's what I'm speaking about as well. So you can have various repositories and various branches, and you can do various builds and release steps towards those as well. So you can create build steps, and you can have release steps. So you have the validations in between there, and you have work items that actually connect in between those. Another thing is that you have this really nice dashboard function for your team that you can configure as a project manager or a scrum master or whatever your role is. You can configure this and have really nice information to your team. So you can have lots of various dashboards and widgets and graphs and stuff like that. So you can have really good starting point, like a portal starting point for your team. So you can go visit it every day here, and you can have a little high level perspective of what the current status is. And another thing is that you have this Markdown. It's a wiki type of editing language that you can go in and edit files here. For example, if I just do like this, just for sample, I can create wiki information. And wiki is, you saw that I only have the hashtag there, and it's ended up being a pretty bold set of text. So that's the wiki markup or markdown that you use in order to create really good documentation, lightweight documentation that lives together with the code. So that's really good that it's connected to the code here. So if I add some code here, I can also describe the code and the development of the code, and maybe some patterns and practices and things needed more additional explaining can be beneficial to have in .md files tied together with actual version and branching of the code. So that's one of those really nice things to have within TFS, and not to store this type of information within SharePoint or something else, because this is really tightly coupled together with the actual code. So when it comes to quality assurance, and we saw that on the PMI, that's really a big area that you should deliver a good quality. So quality assurance is a huge area in itself. So in Scrum here, we don't see any quality tickets or anything like that. We only have tasks, so it could be a testing task. But in TFS, we have a separate area called test. And within test here, we can do various things. We can have, for example, we can have test plans. And I created one previously within the work tab, but I can just create a new one just to prove the points, and just call it test one, maybe. And in this test one step here, I can create new test cases. So within this new test case, I can do a test for maybe say something I want to test GUI, for example, and I want to have various steps. I want to log into blah blah that somewhere, check if blah blah, and do that if then blah blah, something like that. And this is my test steps and test plan, and I can have lots of different test cases, and I can have lots of different test plans, and I can have them tied together to the actual work as well. So, and when I want to do them, when I want to run this test plan, I can press on the run button here, and I can create a run. And you see it's coming up a really nice little window here. It's called the Microsoft Test Runner. And I can follow the steps here. So I can, for example, check this one, log into XX. It's working. I can log in, but I see that the CC is not working, and I want to just not working, blah blah. And I want to maybe this is a severe one. I can create the bug here and say, okay, we found a bug, blah blah. We see here we have bug filed in test GUI. I have the linkage to the actual test case and test plan, and I can add some additional information in case it makes it easier for the person solving the bug, and that will probably be me. So I press save, and now I've assigned. And now I can save and close this because this is not working. So it says failed. I can do it again. Maybe now I've fixed the bug. I just do it again. I start it up again. I say, now it's working. This is working. This is working. And I just press save and close. And now it's passed. And everything like this, it's logged within various types of charts. And I can put the charts on the dashboard in case I want to. So I can just put this type of chart on the starting dashboard here. So I can see whichever type of information my team is interested in. Another type of test that might be interesting is this load testing. So I can go to the test and I can go to load testing. I can actually create a load test here. For example, I can do a URL based test, for example, and I just connect to my website. Let's call it yllemo.com. That's my website, and I go there and HTTP and something like that, and it's probably like that. And I'm just gonna get the website, and this is a test case. So I just yllemo.com here. I can go on the settings here. I can see that it's gonna do 2 minutes of testing. It's going to be constant. It's going to have a maximum of 25 virtual users. It's going to have a browser mix of Internet Explorer and Chrome. And the load is going to come from somewhere, maybe from Japan is cool. I want to target a Japanese audience here. I can run this test. This is going to trigger some credits from Azure because it's using the online credits here, so it's gonna do the tests for a couple of minutes here, so I can have information of my performance and diagnostics, and I can also have some information about how this is performing. And again, I can have this information timely, and I can have this really detailed understanding of how my machine actually runs and works. And also I can spin up like lab machines, like virtual environments where I put in the payload of a build and a release, and I can do the pre-configured testing, like test plans that's have a graphical testing in it, like coded UI tests and stuff like that. I can put that into virtual machines and have virtual runs, and I can get a really good understanding of how the system performs. So this is very nice of the TFS to have all of these nice features tightly together. So it's really working together with this DevOps idea that you want to bridge the gap of the entire application lifecycle, that you want to have a really agile way of thinking all the way. So it's going back to the initial stakeholders, and everything is kind of like automated all the way. So it should be really configurable, so it should be automatic. So here we see the finished result of my test run here. I can see the average response time, the user load, the request per second, and so on. I can also see some really nice charts here. I can have some diagnostics and some logs as well, so I can have a really good understanding of the performance of a web. One of the cooler things you can do with the Microsoft tools is, for example, if I go into this work item here, I can tie a description. This is the graphical user interface. I can add things like tags, and I can add descriptions and so on. But I can also do things like click on this button, and I can do some more or less hidden things. I can do a start storyboarding thing. So if I switch to this application, it will open up Microsoft PowerPoint, and from here I have this storyboarding thing where I can choose the storyboarding shapes, where I can choose from various types of icons or presets. For example, if I want to do something with Windows Phone or whatever, I can do that. If I want to do something with SharePoint, I can do that as well. I just link this in here, and in my sad trombone, what do I want? I don't want a big large button here in the middle of the screen. That's the only thing I want, like that. And I want to have it read like a sad trombone, something like that. And just to further enhance it, I just want to have some animation. Maybe I want to have a click there, and I want to have some maybe some icon showing that it's gonna play a song or something like that, a sad trombone song. And this, of course, I can use in order to tie this to this specific work item. So I can have this visualization directly linked together with the work item, which is really, really nice. One of those cool things within TFS is the actually query system, that you can add and create specific queries. I've added a new one here that I show all items. I just wanted to show all of the items within the system. I also created an impediment here, so I can create new ones, by pressing new query here, and I can create new impediments or features or other types of product backlog items that I want to have. I can also invent new ones in case I wanted to. So what I can do with this query system is that I can create charts based on this. For example, I can create a new chart, and I can group by, assign to, for example, or work item type. Just so I have an understanding, I can just do like this, and I can see what types of tasks I have, and I can have this like a default, just so I have an understanding of how things work. What I also can do is I can open up Excel, for example, and I can use this team tab here, and I can go and create a new list here, and I go to this sad trombone here, and I just press here, and I want to see what I have here, and I go to my queries and all items, the one I created, and I press OK. It's gonna push things back to me here, and I'm gonna get it into Excel. I can see here I have a flat list type, and I want to change something within here, maybe this bug 11. maybe I should change this to done, for example, and I want to create something like a feature sad trombone. It should maybe be just so we can see it's sad trombone 1, just so that there, and then I can publish it from within Excel. So when I go back to TFS and I go back to the work tab here, and I should be able to see within the backlog, I can go to the features. It should now read sad trombone 1. So you can see it's working from Excel. So I can do bulk updates from within Excel, two-way updates. Really nice feature. In a similar way, like we did with Excel here, when I do this bulk update, I can also do it within project, Microsoft Project here. And I've opened up Microsoft Project and just created a new blank project like this, blank project like that. And I connected to the team project exactly the same way as I did the other one. So now I can get work items, and I get the query here, and I want to go to my queries, all items, and I just press find, and I get all of the items here. So I select all and just press OK. Now it's populating Microsoft Project here, and I can do various things. I can, for example, if I want to do some tasks towards this, I want to do this, and I want to plan this, and I want to have this here maybe, and I want to have this assigned prior to this, and I want to create like a Gantt view based on this. I can publish this, and this data is also going to be published onto back to the TFS. So I can use Microsoft Project in order to create like very fancy reports, and I can compare, I can create burn downs, and I can see the project overview from here as well. So I can get the data and work with the data like a backend, like a SQL server, but I use the team foundation server as a backend. And one of the things with Microsoft Project that's really nice to use is to have this Gantt view. If you have a project where you have lots of interdependencies, that this item is dependent upon that item and so on, and it's a really complex flow, and maybe you want to calculate the critical path or something like that, and you want to create a really detailed work breakdown structure. Microsoft Project is really the tool for that. But you can instead of storing the data within Microsoft Project, you can also use it within TFS. So what I can also do with the Microsoft Project is I can use SharePoint here in order to also create the work breakdown structure or feature breakdown structure in case I wanted to. What I do here is I go to add an app. And I want to create a task app because it makes me easier, and I call this work breakdown structure. Just a set of tasks that I want to complete or do or stuff like that. So I go to and create a new task like this, and I will call it VBS1, just task 1, or maybe we call it GUI, something like that. And I want to create this I want to have it finished tomorrow, so I just create one item here, and I want to create another one. I can do this like this, and I have the log. And it's going to be finished by, we take the same, so it's going to be due date the same tomorrow, so it's good. Let's see if we can find me here. No, it doesn't find me. We have this on top here, we have this also this date here. We see that we actually see the log in the GUI. So if we place this GUI, we change this, we just go into edit item here. Change this, and we put this maybe on the 14th here instead, and we changed it to the 15th. So we're gonna see, we can see on the top here, we should see that we have a GUI on Thursday as well. So it's this list is not really, it's configured to show dates, but we can change that to show days as well. So what I can do now is I can copy this little link here on top here, and I go to Microsoft Project here, and I go to new, and I created blank, no, not a blank. I go to new, and I create a SharePoint list, and I just type it in and check the list, and I see that I have the task list here, and I press OK. I should now be able to see when my things are finished. And I can change here, and I can have this interrelations in between. I can say that this one is dependent upon this one, and that way I can also save this, and the data should be saved back up, so it's working as a SharePoint in the back end here. So if I doesn't crash, so it should work. Nice project. So it didn't save this one. There's bad. Let's see what we have here. Maybe it didn't like this so much. Synchronization. Let's see. Done. Anyway, weird things happen. So now we should see that I have on Saturday here, I have this log here instead. So we can see that I have a different view here that it's changed. So I can use this to create a log in between, and I can use Microsoft Project and all the benefits of Microsoft Project, like having really detailed types of reports, and I can have the resource planning. So I can have all of that using Microsoft Project. And in 2016, Microsoft Project Server, SharePoint 2016, the Microsoft Project Server is included as an app within as a solution in between in SharePoint 2016. So it should be nice as well that you can have between various projects, you can have gather data just the same way as you can within the TFS, that you can also see in between various teams, and you can have cross team reports and stuff like that, so you can see which type of resources is overlocated. And you can see here in the TFS, I can see the capacity flow. For example, I can see who is underworked and overworked. So for example, if I'm doing development and I have a capacity of 7 per day, whatever that is, 7 hours maybe that is, and I can go into we just stay here and we just save this, just so we have now I have this capacity flow. I can have the same thing within Microsoft Project with the resource planning, so I can plan the resources and how much time they have, and I can allocate it, and then I can use either TFS as a backend or SharePoint as a backend. That's really nice of Microsoft Project, and it's going to be included into SharePoint from now on, I think, as an extension model. I think the licensing model will be separate, but still it's going to be pretty easy to integrate together with other things. Also, another thing worth mentioning is within this task list here, this app of tasks, we also have pre-configured views that we can have a look at. We have the calendar view, and we can see the calendars, and we can see the items, and I can click on the items, and I can see it within the calendar view. But I can also see like filtered if I want to see which one is completed and which one is not. But also we have a couple of ones that we have the Gantt chart, and this is really handy because since the licensing model of Microsoft Project requires you to have a license in order to work with it, this can be like a lightweight Gantt view that you can share. You just send this link to your team members, and they can go in here and see what the Gantt view is of the project. There are some other applications within Office 365 from Microsoft that's really interesting to have a look at when it comes to project management. One of those is Planner. And Planner is like, if you're familiar with Trello, it's the same type of structure. It's a really simplified list of tasks and to-dos. I can have like a GUI here, and I can add an additional task, and maybe we call it log, just so we have the same thing here. And I can have various buckets, and buckets is the same in the TFS. In the board of the TFS, we had like columns. Here, to do, in progress, and done. Within the teams, I can have the same type of bucket structure. So I add maybe to do, and we just have in proc. Call it differently, and we have done here, for example. So here I have the same type of thing. I can drag this and I can put it into to do. And from here I can maybe push this into to-do. This is like a simplified version of the TFS workload. The TFS Kanban boards or Scrum boards is really advanced and really configurable. This one is more Trello-like. It's really simple to use and then to place the cards within various buckets. And I can also put some labels and some colors, and it's more lightweight than the other ones, and it's probably easier to get started with rather than the TFS, which is really requires a bit of learning. The learning curve of TFS is a bit bigger than this one, but this one is nice to use when it comes to really getting started, really simple getting started, just have an understanding of how to do really simple planning of some sorts, and this is pretty new to the Microsoft stack. So this is something that you can have an initial look at, and if you want to have a really simple board, when you just want to have a simple visualization of how things are done, this is probably a good way to start with. And you can also always export this and put this into another list later on. Another really recent addition to Microsoft stack here is the Teams. The Teams is like more a reminder of Slack, if you're familiar with Slack, and this is like a chat tool that you can see lots of activities, and you can have a chat, and you can start various discussion boards, and you can have like various chat bots that you can help you with the various tasks, and you can link, and you can have an ongoing dialogue with your team. So what you do is you create a team like this, and within the team you can create various like channels, and you can add members, and you can have various discussions going on. So you can have like a chat system, so you can have a dialogue in between here. What you also can do is that you can have various files. You can actually upload files here, so you can not only have a conversation, but you can also upload files. And what you also can do is that you can have like notes, like OneNote notes, and this is actually OneNote. So I can do the same things as I did in OneNote. So I can do exactly the same things as I did in OneNote. I can even open it in OneNote, my desktop version of OneNote, so I can have all my notes stored in one place. And the files here, I think that is familiar for you if you click on the upload button, because if you click on this and you say here open in SharePoint, the Teams is also a SharePoint site. So we looked at SharePoint before, and now we see it's the same type of structure. So I have the same things as we see here. I have the new documents, and I can do all of the same things as I did within the other SharePoint. I can also see that I have a sad trombone thing here, so I can do the same things. I can add apps, and I can do things with this SharePoint site as well. So it's basically the same thing. One of the cool things with Teams here is that you can have your meeting planning. So I don't have tied this to my Exchange account, to Microsoft Exchange server with Outlook. But if you have connected this to Outlook, you can see all of your meetings and all of your meeting details and planning and discussions of that as well within here. And you have a really nice overview of all the files and all your stored information within here. And also it comes with a desktop application, so you can have it as a desktop application like this. And within this desktop application, you can also do the same things as you do, and you can have this like, and you get these nice little warnings. One of the things that I find particularly interesting is that if you create, for example, if I create a new channel here, and I call it the VSTS because it's or /TFS maybe, just so we get something. I couldn't do slash, so we just do it like that. Add. I can have a separate channel, and you can see this have this plus sign in between here. So now I have a separate working folder. So if I go here, it should be a different folder structure within the SharePoint site as well. But I can go here and I can add, for example, add a planner. I can add a connection to the planner. So the planning name of this should be sad trombone, maybe. So we do a planner. The other one, the sad trombone planner here, I can do the same things here, and I can add buckets here as well. So I can drag this to maybe I should need to save it first, and I can use the planner here as well. I can also use the team services, so I can hook this up to my account with the team services. So I can use this board within Teams as well, which is really nice because I can have all of the information centrally stored in one place. I can also use this on either Windows or Macs or most of the mobile systems, so iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. So it's a really high performing way of doing your communications and really fitting it all together into one really nice application. So I've covered some of the project management tools, but I haven't covered all of them by far. There are so many other things that Microsoft is doing that helping project management. One of those things is Yammer. It's the Facebook type of application that you can use to have like like a Facebook type of dialogues and discussions. You can also have a Skype for business, where you can have meetings rooms and conference rooms, and you can have regular phone calls tied together with your Outlook. There's so many other things here within the Office 365 suite of applications that you actually can use. The ones that are really interesting right now is the Power Apps and the Flow. So you can use these Power Apps, for example. You can create really rapid type of applications. So just to get an understanding, I can really easily, using SharePoint as a backend, I can create a service desk application, budget tracker, so on and so forth. Really nice applications that works on PC or full screen browser or an or a phone device. So it's a really responsive design, and it's really that easy to just click and link things together. So this is something that that's coming now in the near future, and you can use Flow in order to create really simplified workflows of sorts. So the other workflows that the older workflows that, for example, you can have email automation and warning and have sign-off routines and stuff like that within SharePoint. This is like an extended model to that, making things really easy to create Power Apps from that as well. There is so many other things that Microsoft is doing that are facilitating to project management. So in any way, I haven't covered it all. I tried to highlight some of the key things that I found really interesting, and I hope this was introduction was really useful for you. And if you do like it and you would like to see more of this type of tutorials or introductions or stuff like that, just send me a comment or like the movie here in YouTube, or subscribe or something like that, and I will make sure that we have more follow-up sessions like this one. So until next time, I wish you the greatest time, and looking forward to next time. Thank you.